This conference will
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
వినిపిస్తుంది మేడం.
Sorry. So last class we have taught briefly about pathogenesis of diabetes, predominant symptoms. Okay, today we'll go in a systemic manner. First includes the definition, then classification, then clinical features and investigations. Coming to definition of diabetes, it's a group of metabolic disorders characterized by hyperglycemia. It basically results from defect in insulin secretion, action, or both. The chronic hypoglycemia of diabetes is associated with long-term damage, dysfunction, failure of different organs, especially eyes, kidneys, nerves, heart, blood vessels, peripheral vessels. Okay, this is the definition of diabetes. Now coming to insulin. Okay, basically insulin is a 51 amino acid dimeric protein. It consists of alpha chain and beta chain, which are held together by disulfide bond. It is basically produced as pre-proinsulin molecule by ribosomes, matures to proinsulin molecule in the Golgi apparatus, and cleaves to insulin and C-peptide before it's packing into sensory granules. Now I'll tell you how insulin is secreted with response to glucose. Okay, this is the mechanism of secretion. So basically what will happen is glucose and other nutrients will regulate insulin secretion by pancreatic beta cell. Glucose is transported by glucose transporter, which is called GLUT2, which is present in the pancreatic beta cell. There are basically 5 types of GLUT channels. Okay, GLUT1, GLUT2, GLUT3, GLUT4, GLUT5. What you have to remember is GLUT1 and GLUT2. Okay, GLUT2 is present in renal also. Okay, why am I telling this is because different medications act in different way. Okay, so glucose is transmitted by glucose transmitter, which is GLUT1 and or GLUT2 in humans. Okay, subsequently glucose is metabolized with help of glucokinase into glucose 6 phosphate and pyruvate. Okay, glucose 6 phosphate and pyruvate, which in turn in the mitochondria is responsible for generation of ATP and ADP. Okay, ATP and ADP will act on the ATP sensitive potassium channel, which causes depolarization. Okay, and opening up on voltage gated calcium channels. Calcium will enter inside the cell, which will cause increased cyclic AMP, which in turn will cause secretion of the insulin, which is actually formed and stored in secretory granules. Okay, along with insulin, there will be release of C-peptide and insulin associated polypeptide, which is called as islet associated polypeptide also, or amylin. Okay, so basically remember, first glucose enters into the pancreas cell with the help of GLUT1 or GLUT2. Glucose is metabolized with the help of glucokinase into glucose 6 phosphate or pyruvate. Pyruvate in the mitochondria is responsible for ATP or ADP. ADP acts on ATP sensitive potassium channel, which causes depolarization. Okay, and opening up of on voltage gated calcium channels, which cause inward flow of calcium, activate cyclic AMP. Cyclic AMP in turn is responsible for secretion of insulin associated with C-peptide or amylin. Okay, there in this cell you can see some receptors which are called as incretin receptors. Incretin receptors are basically, these are small peptides which are metabolized or produced in the small intestine, which on binding on these cell will increase the secretion of insulin. Okay, I'll tell you detail about incretin when we deal with the treatment of diabetes mellitus. Okay, this is in short how glucose act. Okay, two important drugs mechanism of action I'll tell you here briefly. Later we'll discuss in detail. One is your sulfonylurea. Sulfonylurea drug, which acts on sensitive potassium. Okay, and second thing your incretin. Incretin will act on the incretin receptors which are present on the beta cells. In brief, metabolic corrections of insulin on the adipose tissue, it causes increased glucose uptake, increased lipogenesis, and decreased lipolysis. On the striated muscles, it will cause increased glucose uptake, increased glycogen synthesis, increased protein synthesis. In the liver, it will cause increased glycogen synthesis, decreased gluconeogenesis, and lipogenesis. Classification of diabetes. Broadly, diabetes is classified into type 1, which is called insulin dependent diabetes mellitus, type 2, which is called non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus, gestational diabetes, and other specific types. Okay. Now coming to detailed classification. First thing, it is type 1 diabetes, which is immune mediated beta cell destruction, usually leading to absolute insulin deficiency. Type 2 diabetes, it will range from insulin resistance with relative insulin deficiency to a predominantly insulin secretory defect with insulin resistance. Okay, so first thing is there can be insulin resistance, which is followed by insulin deficiency. Later, what will happen is the insulin secretory defect only will increase, will manifest with insulin resistance. Now coming to specific type, one is genetic defect of beta cell development or function characterized by mutation. It is also called as MODY, that is mature onset diabetes in young. Okay, it is characterized by presence of diabetes in future 3 generations, onset of diabetes in very young age. It usually is treated by predominantly insulin, but there are some forms which are treated by sulfonylureas. Okay, I'll tell you in detail what about MODY later. In this, what you have to know is there are 7 types. Okay, type 1 is because of mutation in hepatocyte nuclear factor 4 alpha. Type 2 is mutation of glucokinase. Type 3, HNF1 alpha. Type 4, insulin promoter factor 1, HNF1 beta, neuro D1, and others, leading to other forms of MODY. Type 5, insulin subunit of ATP sensitive potassium channel, leading to permanent neonatal diabetes. 6 is mitochondrial DNA. 7 is other pancreatic regulatory factors such as PAX4, KLF11, GATA4, GATA6, SLC2A2, that is GLUT2, and other genes. Then coming to second thing, transient neonatal diabetes. Third thing, disease of exocrine pancreas like pancreatitis, pancreatectomy, pancreatic neoplasia, cystic fibrosis, hemochromatosis, fibrocalculus pancreatopathy, mutation in carboxyl ester lipase also will come under special types of diabetes. Then coming to genetic mutations, there are a few genes which, if they're mutated, will cause defect in insulin action. One is type A insulin resistance, one is leprotism, one is Davidson-Mendel syndrome, lipodystrophy syndromes. Coming to endocrinopathy, endocrine disorders which is associated with diabetes are acromegaly, Cushing's, glucagonoma, pheochromocytoma, hyperthyroidism, somatostatinoma, aldosteronoma. Okay, coming to drugs or chemical induced diabetes, predominantly the drugs which cause diabetes are, one is glucocorticoids, one is thiazides, one is alpha interferon, one is antipsychotics, and epinephrine. There are few other drugs like pentamidine, nicotinic acid, diazoxide, beta adrenergic agonist, calcineurin and mTOR inhibitors, hydantoin, and diabetes later in future. Okay, uncommon forms of insulin mediated immune mediated diabetes are, one is stiff person syndrome, one is anti-insulin receptor antibodies. Okay, other genetic syndromes associated with diabetes are, one is Downs, one is Klinefelter, one is Turner, one is Wolfram, one is other is Huntington's chorea, Lauren-Moon-Biddle syndrome, myotonic dystrophia, porphyria, and Prader-Willi syndrome. Finally, other type is gestation diabetes. So from these, MODY can come as the short notes. Okay, gestational diabetes can come as the short notes. Just remember the names like endocrine, whatever will cause diabetes, genetic defects, whatever will cause diabetes. Okay, what are the drugs which will cause diabetes? Basically, drugs causing diabetes, mechanism of action is very different. Like few drugs will cause insulin resistance, few drugs will cause insulin decrease insulin secretion. Then third thing, this autoimmune response. So insulin type 1 diabetes, which is also called as insulin dependent diabetes mellitus, it occurs mostly in young group of patients, that is less than 30 years. Insulin deficiency results due to destruction of beta cell. Destruction of beta cell is autoimmune mediated destruction. Okay, T cells are usually involved. So T cell mediated autoimmune destruction of beta cell or glutamic acid decarboxylase antibodies. Genetic predisposition is present, that is HLA, DR3, DR4. 30 to 50% concordance is present in identical twins. Various environmental factors like I've told you viruses, that is rubella, Coxsackie, cytomegalovirus, excessive coffee intake, stress, cow milk in newborns is usually, and a few associated disorders like thyroid, Addison's, pernicious anemia, celiac disease can also cause type 1 diabetes. Okay, this is basically a graph which will show though how over the time the type 1 diabetes will progress. First thing is, from birth there will be some genetic predisposition, but it's not necessary that it will always manifest disease. Okay, and at birth pancreatic cell mass also is at maximum. For the genetic predisposition, if there's any immunological trigger like underlying immunological disease, or if there's any infections, then the progressive impairment of insulin will start, and immunological abnormalities also will manifest. And these stages are divided into stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. Okay, basically what is stage 1? Once again, individual with genetic predisposition are exposed to a trigger that initiates an autoimmune response, resulting in development of islet cell antibodies and a gradual decline in beta cell function and mass. Stage 1, disease is characterized by development of 2 or more islet cell antibodies, but maintenance of normoglycemia. Okay, so basically, though there's autoimmune destruction in stage 1, there will be normal glycemic index. Stage 2 is defined by continuous autoimmunity and development of dysglycemia. So stage 2 is dysglycemia. 1 is normoglycemia, 2 is dysglycemia. Stage 3 is defined by development of hyperglycemia that exceeds the diagnostic criteria for diagnosis of diabetes. Okay, stage 3 is over diabetes is or hyperglycemia. 1 normoglycemia, 2 dysglycemia, 3 is hyperglycemia. The downward slope of the beta cell function varies among individuals and may not be continuous. A honeymoon phase may exist in first 2 years of onset of diabetes and is associated with insulin requirements. Basically, what will happen is once the diagnosis or diabetes is diagnosed, first 2 years, some people can have insulin requirement, reduced insulin requirement. Okay, that is very bad because they'll be undergoing a lot of destruction. Okay, so it is called honeymoon phase because the requirement of insulin is less, but the destruction which occurs at the microcellular level is more. Coming to type 2 diabetes, it is called non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. It mostly affects middle age and older people more than 30 years. It occurs due to insulin resistance and beta cell exhaustion, that is relative insulin deficiency. High insulin levels in early stage is characteristic. Etiology can be a central obesity, which leads to increased free fatty acids, which competes with glucose for oxidation. Adipokines are reduced. Adipokines decrease the sensitivity of insulin receptors and inhibition of gluconeogenesis. So central obesity, how does it cause diabetes? One, because of increased free fatty acids, which competes with glucose for oxidation. Second, because of obesity, there will be increased adipokines, which in turn will reduce sensitivity of insulin receptors. Third, it inhibits gluconeogenesis. Metabolic syndrome, which includes obesity, hypertension, increased LDL, increased triglycerides. Genetic predisposition, that is mutation of gene TCF-L2, BMI more than 30, or pregnancy. There are few risk factors which can predispose the patient to type 2 diabetes in the future. One is family history of diabetes, one is overweight, that is BMI more than 25, or BMI more than 23 nations. Okay, physical inactivity, race, previously identified impaired glucose tolerance or impaired fasting glucose, or hemoglobin HbA1c between 5.7 to 6.4. Then there will be history of diabetic gestation diabetes, history of hypertension, that is BP more than 140 by 90. Okay, HDL cholesterol less than 35, or triglycerides more than 250. PCOD or acanthosis nigricans, history of cardiovascular disease. Okay, these are the few risk factors which might predispose a patient to type 2 diabetes mellitus. These are a table which will basically tell you the difference between type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes. Okay, coming to type 1, frequency is 10 to 20%, type 2 is 80 to 90%. Age of onset, type 1 is less than 35 years, type 2 is more than 40 years. Type of onset, type 1 is abrupt and severe, type 2 is gradual and insidious. Weight, type 1 is normal, type 2 is gradual, type 2 is obese or non-obese. Okay, HLA predisposition in type 1 it's more, that is DR3, DR4 and DQ. Type 2 no HLA association. Okay, family history less than 20% in type 1, approximately 60% in type 2. Genetic locus, type 1 unknown, type 2 is chromosome 6. Diabetes in identical twins, type 1 is 50% concordance, in type 2 is 80% concordance. Pathogenesis, type 1 is due to autoimmune destruction of beta cell. Type 2 is insulin resistance, impaired insulin secretion. Islet cell antibodies are present in type 1, they are absent in type 2. Blood insulin levels are decreased in type 1. In type 2, it can be normal or increased insulin due to insulin resistance. Islet cell changes, type 1 is insulin cell depletion, type 2 is no insulinitis, later fibrosis. Amyloidosis is very frequent in type 2, infrequent in type 1. Clinical management, type 1 is insulin and diet, type 2 is diet, exercise, oral drugs, and insulin. Acute complications, in type 1 you can get ketoacidosis, in type 2 you have hyperosmolar coma. Now coming to, as I've told you, MODY, that is mature onset diabetes in young. It's a type of type 2 diabetes occurring in young people. It's further divided into 5 types. That is, 1 is HNA4 alpha deficiency, 2 glucokinase deficiency, 3 HNA1 alpha deficiency, 4 is insulin promoter factor 1 deficiency, 5 is hepatocyte nuclear factor 1 beta deficiency. Gestational diabetes. It is a hypoglycemia occurs for the first time during pregnancy. Usually it occurs in the second trimester, that is after 24 weeks. Okay, placental hormones reduce the sensitivity of insulin receptors, resulting in hypoglycemia, and insulin does not meet body requirements and beta cell absorption occurs. These are signs and symptoms of diabetes. Okay, hypoglycemia, signs and basically the underlying pathology mechanism is hypoglycemia, relative or absolute insulin deficiency. Okay, so signs and symptoms of insulin deficiency are polyphagia, that is food craving, weight loss, underweight, fatigue, feeling of generalized weakness. Okay, hypoglycemia are blurred vision. They can be polyuria and polydipsia also, and can lead to weight loss. Signs of high blood glucose are slow healing of sores and skin wounds, evidence of peripheral neuropathy, tendency towards infection like skin, urinary tract, vaginal tract, and women. Coming to investigations, what are the investigations you're supposed to do? One is urine testing, one is blood testing, then glycated hemoglobin, serum electrolytes, and renal parameters. Urine testing. Testing the urine for glucose with dipstick is a common practice for detecting diabetes. Preferably, it should be checked after 2 hours of meal for its maximum sensitivity. It may be false positive in pregnancy and with some drugs. Ketonuria can also be detected in the urine by using dipsticks. To check for ketone bodies in the urine, nitroprusside reaction is used. Ketonuria may be also false positive in cases of like prolonged starvation, prolonged exercise, vomiting, glycosuria. Diabetes is most likely diagnosis. Standard dipstick test for albumin detection, that is urine albumin at concentration of more than 300 milligrams per deciliter, is usually detected, but you can detect microalbuminuria also, which is between 30 to 300 mg. Microalbuminuria in the presence of in the absence of UTI is an indicator of diabetes. Blood testing, you have to check, one is normal fasting blood glucose, one is random blood glucose, then you have to check for postprandial blood glucose. Okay, in diabetic patients, fasting blood glucose more than or equal to 126 milligrams per deciliter. Random blood glucose more than or equal to 200 milligrams per deciliter is usually present. Okay, there's something called oral glucose tolerance test, which is called OGTT. It is a 2-hour test that checks your blood glucose levels before there is fasting levels, and 2 hours after you drink a special feed drink, that is 750 milligrams of glucose is given. Sometimes you give 1 gram also. Okay, it tells the doctor how your blood body process the glucose. Diabetes is diagnosed if the level of blood sugars after 2 hours is more than 200 mg per deciliter, then you can diagnose with diabetes. Pre-diabetic, okay, before the patients develop type 2 diabetes, they always have pre-diabetes, that is blood glucose levels that are higher than normal, but not yet high enough to be diagnosed as diabetes. But these people in future have higher risk of developing diabetes and cardiovascular disease. So, what levels of HbA1c? 5.7 to 6.4. Fasting blood glucose between 100 to 125 milligrams per deciliter. Oral glucose tolerance, 2-hour blood glucose of 140 to 199 milligrams per deciliter. Glycated hemoglobin. Glycated hemoglobin provides an accurate and objective measure of glycemic control over a period of 2 to 3 months. In diabetes, the slow non-enzymatic covalent attachment of glucose to hemoglobin increases the amount of HbA1c relative to adult hemoglobin. So to be a diabetic, you should have HbA1c of more than or equal to 6.5. Renal function tests to be evaluated as creatinine may arise in diabetes. Electrolyte balance should be evaluated in case of chronic diabetic ketoacidosis. Okay, this is how you see. First, see normal glucose tolerance. Normal glucose tolerance is fasting glucose less than 100, 2 hours postprandial is less than 140, HbA1c is less than 5.6. Okay, pre-diabetic is called as impaired fasting glucose or impaired glucose tolerance. Okay, that is 140 to 126, sorry, 100 to 126, that is fasting, 140 to 199, that is 2 hours postprandial. HbA1c is 5.7 to 6.4. Now coming to diabetes, diabetes is diagnosed as fasting blood sugar of more than or equal to 126, 2 hours postprandial is more than or equal to 200, HbA1c is more than or equal to 6.5. Okay, in diabetic mellitus also initially it will start from not insulin requiring, later insulin required for control. Third thing is insulin required for survival. Thank you. So this is in brief, if regarding the definition, clinical features, how do you diagnose and classification. Okay, in next class we'll deal with the medications used to treat diabetes, followed by acute and chronic complications. I hope all of you have sent your attendance.